African American history is American history, and the fact that African Americans were basically brought to this country to help build the country is reflected in so many of the documents, even photographs, everything that the library has collected over time really shows that integration in the true sense of the word of African American history and general American history.
Some of the early figures in American history, people like Frederick Douglass or Hiram Revels, the first African American congressman. What are some of these figures who speak to you the most as somebody who has a sort of this front seat to history? Like who are some of the figures, these early figures in American history who are African American who speak to you the most?
Well, I have to admit that Frederick Douglass, and it might have a lot to do with the fact that I'm a librarian, but Frederick Douglass and his emphasis on literacy and reading and the ability to read being linked to freedom. In fact, I have one of the quotes that I use all the time, and we sell it in the library shop. Once you learn to read, you'll be forever free. And Frederick Douglass said that when he was writing his autobiography and talked about the fact that he knew literacy and learning to read must have been important when the person who owned him didn't want him to learn to read. And right then he knew there was something about reading that was tied to the ability to either free yourself or have an amount of freedom.
Now, you have your own space in African American history and U.S. history as the very first African American who's the Librarian of Congress.
Very daunting to know you're a historical figure in that sense.
Is that strange every once in a while that
Yes.
you've come into your office at this very pivotal time in American history, right? This is the first black president is leaving office. Talk a little bit about that.
It's been very daunting, I mentioned, to think of your as an individual being someone that might be cited in a trail of history as being a first or something like that. On the other hand, it was inspiring for me to work with young people. The Library of Congress just opened the Young Reader Center for Saturdays, on Saturdays, this past Saturday, and we're going to be open. And to see the young people there, and you think they can make their own history. So being able to talk with young people about historical figures, and you never know, right in this room, somebody turn to the person next to you, that could be you could be the next president. That's what makes you, I think, as a person who's involved in history, more inspired yourself.
We're at a time in American history where there's a lot of tension in the body politic, but what would you say to somebody who questions whether we need a Black History Month? Why don't we just have an American History Month? What would you tell them as a librarian, as an historical, a keeper of historical knowledge for the country?
That also comes up with Women's History Month, which is going to be in March, and other aspects of just putting a spotlight for a concentrated period of time on a particular group. And what it does is give people an opportunity to concentrate or find out about a particular group or segment in our history. It's a wonderful vehicle. I know that there are displays in just about every school and every library in the country that are bringing things to the attention of students and also their parents. There are some parents who, in different age groups, that might not have had the history presented to them. It's useful. And I think that it could also be a way to have young people, and I keep going back to young people because they really are the future and the hope, to get them to think about making history themselves.